Castro's Cuba.
Right.
That represents a successful revolution against the American business interests. And they give you the Bay of Pigs, they give you the Cuban Missile Crisis, the Vietnam War, and they give you, all this kind of stuff. And it is all through archival footage because he wants you at first, to be straight up documentary.
Yeah.
And he although he does cut it together with, and we should mention some pretty fantastic music by John Williams, who's doing the score here. You probably heard of John Williams. But it's really cool that, especially in this opening, like it starts very sort of like very classic, mournful, tragic, like swelling of the orchestra that you'd kind of expect from John Williams.
Yeah.
And when things start to like heat up with the passion of the detective work, it gets into these more like spare, more just like kind of like drumline kind of stuff. Like it creates this more sort of intense, mysterious atmosphere.
It's emptier than what you're used to from John Williams, I find.
Absolutely.
But there is still kind of that like patriotic buildup when you have Costner saying anything. There is kind of that like single horn in the background and snare line that's kind of building as it goes every once in a while. Very patriotic.
Well, yeah, and it builds just in time for it to cut away as the parade forms, the screen goes black, you hear the bullet shot go off, and you're like, Mr. John F. Kennedy has been assassinated, and we are introduced to District Attorney Jim Garrison, who I do love that he is watching it on the television and drinking along with everyone else in shock and despair at the bar. And obviously he gets to throw in the wonderful Oliver Stone gives him so many wonderful liberal leading man lines like, God, I'm ashamed to be an American today. Like that.
Yeah.
But it's also the first of many appearances we'll see in the film of people learning information from the TV, being collectively persuaded by what they see on the TV. It's kind of an essential aspect of this film and kind of an essential aspect of what the film is doing.
And especially then, I would imagine that people saw it more as like a truth teller. You know what I mean? Like, why would the people on the television lie to me? It's a very early technology in that sense.
Well, shit, they saw Lee Harvey Oswald get assassinated on television.
Yeah.
Like, they never saw the Zapruder film until many years into almost like a decade or two later, right?
Right.
But like everyone was watching TV when Lee Harvey Oswald got shot. So like it's one of those things where it was kind of a unique development for everyone was glued to the television, and it was they were watching a drama that was real history,
right?
Which is absolutely the kind of energy Stone is trying to capture, that same feeling. We're watching his film like those people would have watched those television screens in kind of a way, which is cool. So we see Garrison watching Oswald get arrested and denying emphatically the charges that he murdered either the policeman or the president that he's being charged with, and that he is being taken in because of his relationships to the Soviet Union, and that he is a patsy. But I love that Oliver Stone can't leave it at that, because it's like, that's enough of an implication to get you kind of moving. He needs to include that scene of the evil chief who gets drunk and he's like toasting. He's like, toast to Camelot and smithereens for that, like, Mickey Mouse president. Who fucked up the invasion of Cuba and only won the election due to the blacks and Jews being able to vote.
Yeah.
Like, just drunkenly stammering about Oswald flipping. And like, so the details of like there being a larger conspiracy are definitely being thrown in early, but it's important that Garrison is not really seeing them, because before they can get into his like Oswald's past shooting experience, he genuinely was terrible. And not even an expert marksman could recreate the 3 perfect shots in 6 seconds that he would have had to do from that absurd angle that he was at, which is one of the things that Stone got 100% right. And before they could get into his ultra left-wing nationalist pro-Castro ties, which they got from him handing out Hands Off Cuba pamphlets with the address of an office connected to CIA. Another real fact. So like a lot of the stuff that he's telling you is, stuff that you can look up.
Yeah.
And
did you watch the documentary that he released, by the way, just real briefly?
I did. Okay. And I would recommend that, because I was kind of,
I was going to get to it.
Yeah. I was going to get to it, at the end, but I would recommend, because like it's not as good as this film, in my opinion, because it is just a straight documentary, and it really is Oliver Stone many decades later basically just taking a victory lap on, he's like, here's all the stuff
legit,
that
right?
Yeah, like all the paperwork has since come out, and most of my debunking, pretty much most of the debunking of the Warren Commission official story that you see in this film, he ended up being right about, and it was revealed in all of the paperwork, and also that his film helped get that paperwork given to us earlier. It was supposed to not be released until 2029, and as a result of this film, it came out in like 2017 or something like that. So that's mostly what that film is. But obviously, he also completely goes, does not address all of the stuff that he got wrong, like all of the stuff about the gay cabal. And so it's just it's very, it's a documentary as like here's all the stuff that ended up being, mostly true from JFK. And to be fair to him, there's a lot of stuff in here where you think about it for 2 seconds and you're like, yeah, that is how did Lee Harvey Oswald defect to Russia and get a wife in Russia and then was just allowed back into the country without a debriefing?
Yeah. And even later on,
it's one of those things where it's like, that shouldn't happen.
Yeah. And later on, we'll get to more details, but like when they start to break down and use Oldman to recreate what he would have had to have done if he were to get away with this 3-shot in the 6 seconds or whatever it was.
Yeah. Like physically.
Yeah. Like running down the stairs and stuff. I'll try to save it. But, I do love that how they incorporate Oldman in this because he dies, in the first 15, 20 minutes. You never get that interrogation with Costner and him. So they never interact, but he's still significant in the film because of all these like recreations.